Alright, and now for everything I picked up from Toyratt. Starting with this shirt, which is just something that he gave me. I kind of used it to cover up the stuff because it was snowing quite hard. I drove all the way there practically in a snowstorm and barely made it home. Well, not really, but it was pretty bad weather. Probably shouldn't have even made the trip, but you know, by the time I realized how bad the weather was getting, it's already on the way there, so I'm not the kind of guy to turn around from some snow. So yeah, that was a cool shirt. I doubt it'll fit me. He said it was the only size, but he only had a few left, so he gave me a shirt. And I'm not going to show what the shirt's covering, unless I already have. I hope you didn't see what the shirt was covering. I'll save that for last. I got a lot of stuff here, to be honest with you. I don't even remember what stuff I got, because that was yesterday, and I'm very forgetful. So, yeah. A few of these things are not for me, so I'll get to all that. Starting with obviously some Genesis games. I got some boxed Genesis games here. I got Fun and Games. This is kind of looks like a Mario Paint kind of thing where you can draw, make music, and play little games. And it uses the Sega mouse. That's the reason I picked this up, guys. It's a kid's game, but it uses the Mega Mouse. So you got Garfield Caught in the Act. I've heard a lot of good things about this game. I've heard it's actually a really good platforming game. Really nice graphics on the Genesis, a later Genesis game. You can probably tell by the packaging alone. So Garfield Caught in the Act. Got the Terminator. Huge Terminator fan. I've always wanted to pick up the Terminator for the Sega Genesis, the first one there. As I'm a fan of the movie, and I like the music on the Mega Drive, or sorry, the Sega Genesis. The Terminator music sounds really cool on the Sega Genesis, nonetheless. Toe Jam and Earl, Panic on Funkotron. I'm not too familiar with the Toe Jam and Earl games, which is strange. A big Sega fan. As far as I know, they're platforming games mixed with a little bit of puzzle and map sort of stuff, so a little bit of a unique platforming game, I guess you'd say. But yeah, I've never actually seen or played this game, so pick that one up. Let's see. Got two loose 2600 games. These were free, by the way. He just threw these in for free. This is Donkey Kong Jr. for the Atari 2600, and of course Junior Pac-Man, both red labels. Of course, this one not even color, the actual artwork on it. Not too familiar with the Junior Pac-Man, so I kind of just picked that up, knowing it was going to be cheap anyways. Of course, I wasn't expecting it to be free, but there you go. The Genesis games were basically $10 a piece. I think Toe Jam and Earl was 15 or maybe even 20. It was more than the other three anyways. But anyways, moving on. Get that out of the way because that's part of something else. We have a controller for the Atari 5200, or sorry, not the 5200, the 7800. I always get the Atari numbers mixed up. The Atari 7800, I have an Atari 7800, and I've never had an official controller for it. And it is a 2-button controller, okay? So you can use the Sega Genesis controller on the 7800, but only one of the 3 buttons will work. So if the game's used 2 buttons, you're screwed. So now I have an actual controller with the 2 buttons on it. And this is the Menacer, okay? This is all in here, the Sega Menacer, or Sega Genesis Menacer, whatever you call it. This is the light gun for the Sega Genesis. I've always wanted this thing. I think it's a really awesome light gun, really cool piece of Sega hardware that, as a Genesis fan, I should have had all along. But if you've never seen the Menacer, it does run off batteries. It has a scope piece that attaches to the top, and it has like the stock piece which attaches to the back, as you can see, and it sort of makes like almost like a submachine gun the way you hold it, with the short stock, and then you can use the sights there, or you can use the scope, and then you have some buttons on. You know, you'd be holding it with both hands, which I can't do while I'm holding the camera, but yeah, a really cool light gun. And then that comes with, you know, similar to the Super Scope, and how the Super Scope came with Super Scope 6, the Menacer came with a 6-game cartridge. It's kind of funny that they both came with 6-game cartridges. So there's 6 light gun games on here for the Menacer. And then of course the Menacer works on some other shooting games on the Genesis as well, obviously, just like the Super Scope. Okay, we have an Atari 4-switch Woody. Despite looking incredibly dirty, and me waiting for my camera to focus on it, there we go. Despite looking incredibly dirty, it does look like it's in good shape. This was only like $20, $25. I can't remember exactly how much, but basically, this is for someone. I'm not going to tell you who, because it'll be even more of a surprise when you find out who this goes to when he does an unpacking video. He knows it's coming, and basically he's a big Atari fan, and I was really surprised when I found out how much Atari stuff he has, how many games he has, but he doesn't have one of the original Woodies. You know, he's got a Gemini, and he's got a 5200, and he's got a 7800, and the 7800 plays 2600 games. He had a lot of different ways to play 2600 games without actually having an original Woody. And I realize this isn't, you know, a 6-switch, but this was the best I could do. Of the 3 in the box, this one actually looks like it's in the best shape. It still has all of the paint around here, this orange paint around the controls. The other 2, half the paint was gone, and you know, maybe some chips or something in it. So even though this one looks really, really dirty, and right now it is really, really dirty, even though this one looks really dirty, pretty sure it's going to clean up really nicely. So that'll perhaps be one of my next videos. We'll clean that up and we'll test it, because I do have to test it and make sure it works before I send it to who I'm sending it to. And that leaves us with one thing left in the box. And this is a Timex Sinclair 1000. This is also not for me, this is also a gift. It's not for a fellow YouTuber, just someone I know that this was the first computer they ever had. They told me that they learned BASIC on the Timex Sinclair, and so I saw this there, and it was only like $25 or $30. It's got the memory expansion. These things only have 2 kilobytes. This is so small. When this came out, I think it was 1982. This was the smallest and the cheapest what they call microcomputers at the time, like, you know, the Apples and the Commodores and all that kind of stuff. This thing was like $100 or something ridiculous like that. When it came out in the US, it was $100 US. By far the cheapest. And so obviously in Britain it did really, really well. And when they brought it over here, basically Timex just brought the American version over here to the American market. So it's a Timex Sinclair. It's basically the same thing, it's just the NTSC version, and it's incredibly simple. Like I said, it was the smallest computer at the time, probably the smallest computer ever, to be honest with you, with the keyboard and everything all in one. Well, I shouldn't say that today, but you know, you could almost count like a BlackBerry, I guess, as a computer in a way. But I mean, you got your earphones, your microphone. I'm assuming you'd plug your tape decks into that thing. Obviously, I've never used or owned one of these before. 9-volt power input, and then the RF output. That's all there is to it, is your RF output. There's obviously no AV outs. And then there's one expansion slot on the back. Came with the power adapter. It does work. I actually saw it there working. And this is the memory expansion. Now, I don't exactly know what this does, to be honest with you. Probably adds like 16K or something to it, I'm guessing. But yeah, it just clips on the back like so. And there you go. Like I said, this is not for me, but rather I just kind of picked it up thinking someone might like it. And if they don't really want it, that's cool. I can always like turn around and sell it, or maybe just keep a hold of it as kind of a cool collector piece, because it is kind of neat just to look at. It's so small, and I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's black and white, and there's no sound. So, you know, you can't compare it to a Commodore 64 with 64K and amazing graphics capabilities, full color, you know, and really good sound processor. You know, this was really basic, really basic. But that was the whole point. It was cheap. You could at least learn to program with BASIC on it, and there was some games on it. So you know, it was popular in Britain, obviously mainly because of its price. I mean, that's no surprise. Apples and all that stuff were like $900 or whatever, I'm guessing, off the top of my head, in the early 80s, right? Commodore 64 was what, $700? So $100 obviously sold really well. Now, last but not least, and this is the biggest surprise of all, it's a surprise for me, and I'll tell you why, is an Atari 800 XL. This is, there we go, it's in focus a little bit better there. Atari 800 XL in really good shape, if you can't tell. There's absolutely nothing broken on it, nothing cracked, nothing chipped, all the buttons work, so it's really clean. Nice and sturdy system, very hefty. Once again, I've said it before with the 600 XL that I had, very well built machine. It's just very heavy, and you can just feel it. It doesn't creak like the Commodore 64. You know, every time you pick up a Commodore 64, the plastic, you know, kind of moves around a little bit, and it squishes and creaks, and it's much lighter. Commodore 64 is like a third the weight of this thing. It has all the same stuff basically as my 600 XL. It has more memory in it. I can't remember exactly if it's the 600 XL is 32K, but this one's 64K. But the main difference, and quite frankly the main reason I would have even wanted an 800 XL, is the monitor output. It's got composite AV output, okay? So in the 600 XL you have to use RF to go to a TV, and on the 800 XL you can use composite video. So obviously you get much better picture quality out of it. Now the reason this was a big surprise for me is this was free. I bought all this stuff off him. I was looking at this, we were talking about it. You know, I hadn't quite got to a price yet, and I told him I already had a 600 XL. I told him the main reason I would want the 800 XL is because it has the composite AV out. So he got the system out, he found the power supply, and then he tried to find the AV cables for it, and he couldn't find the AV cables for it anywhere. I was in the store for like 20 minutes, and I could hear him in the back, I could hear him upstairs, just, you know, rummaging through everything. He's pulling out all these different AV cables. He had AV cables for Commodore 64s that didn't work, and you know, so finally he came back down and he said, you know, I can't find the AV cables for it. And I said, you know, that's alright. I wasn't really that interested in it. I was just kind of curious what the price would have been, and it would be nice to have, but you know, I already have a 600 XL, so I don't really need it. And I said, you know, maybe if you find the AV cables, maybe next time I come down I'll buy it. And that was the end of it. You know, this sat on the counter. We still looked around some more, and you know, finally I bought everything, and I was just about to leave actually, and he goes, oh, by the way, don't forget your Atari 800 XL. And he put it in the box on top of all the other stuff, and I was like, what, are you serious? He's like, yeah, man, for him to give me an 800 XL for free, totally awesome. I mean, no, he couldn't find the AV cables for it. Maybe some of the AV cables I have lying around will work. Yeah, in the meantime, that is it. That is everything, including the Force Switch Woody Atari there. And like I said, maybe next thing we're going to do is clean that up and test it out. So see you guys later.